Great to be joined now by Coach David Rinker. Coach Rinker, thanks for joining the program.
My pleasure.
Well, a special night, and you traveled back here to Brevard College to honor Jeff Campbell, who is being inducted into the Brevard College Hall of Fame this evening. Can we start with that? What kind of student athlete was Jeff Campbell when he was here at Brevard?
I've been lucky enough to have a lot of very, very good runners in my time, and Jeff is at the top of that level with that group. Very dedicated. The things I think that separated him a lot from a lot of other people was tremendous competitiveness and just a love of the sport. Jeff always knew what was going on around the nation. This is before the internet, so you got everything out of Track and Field News and a few other little magazines that were out there, Runner's World. And, Jeff was a student of the sport, and he was just such a competitive, tough kid.
Outstanding. Could you talk a little bit about what made Brevard College so exceptional and, just in the long-term success in the sport of cross country that Jeff was a big part of?
Well, you've got to go back even well before I got here. Norm Whittick he didn't start. He built upon a program that was already here, but he built the program into a level that was just unheard of as far as junior college is concerned. 4 consecutive national championships. I was lucky enough to come in at the tail end of that, start the women's program with the idea that I was going to take over the whole thing, and because he wanted to retire and move on to some other things in academia as a professor at Brevard. And so, I inherited the huge program that he had built. And we promptly went from winning 4 in a row to my first year finishing second, and I felt like a complete failure. But with the reputation that the program had, Norm built a lot of that with good Americans, but also using some international athletes. But he had built the program up so much then that I could just go out and recruit American athletes. And we were getting the cream of the crop. We were getting a lot of, at the time, Foot Locker finalists who were the top high school kids in the country. We were getting a lot of those kids. We were getting more than, North Carolina and NC State were at the time. And so, the reputation, the fantastic training environment that you've got here with all the mountains, the trails, the academics played a huge part. I think that's a part that people don't understand is we were a 2-year school, but Brevard was a very different 2-year school academically. Kent Todd that ran here, before I got here back in the 70s, just retired as a professor at JMU where I am now. And, he said he chose this because of the academics. And when he left here and where he went to school after that, he was better prepared than most of the people that were already there. So the professors at Brevard, the emphasis that was placed on education, individualization, the caring atmosphere of the school, it was more than just an athletic program.
Sure.
It was a total experience for the young men. And they thrived in that because they were held accountable academically, and therefore they had to be a little bit more disciplined than some other junior colleges where they just ran wild. Here they were very disciplined. They had to be disciplined. They had to do the academics, and then the running took care of itself.
I asked Jeff a similar question, and since it's homecoming weekend and a lot of alums are reflecting back on big moments in their memories at the college, that 1990 national championship team that Jeff was a part of his senior season on the cross-country side of things, what are your memories of that year's squad and winning the national title?
Well, I mean, Jeff played a very, very large part of it, but, we hosted the national meet that year. It was held out at what is now DuPont State Park. And so it was the first time a national championship had been held in this area. And so I remember all the work.
A lot of logistics
the 80
getting ready.
and 90-hour weeks trying to get that thing done. But the thing that will stand out most in my mind is that the pure joy that came from everybody. We'd had a great season. We had a great team. We had its ups and downs that year. And the thing that I'll remember Jeff forever is that Jeff had been our #1 person all year. He had won the North Carolina State Collegiate meet that year. And that was a big deal back then. Carolina was there. Duke was there. he beat the NC State people that year. I think NC State had one All-American in front of him.
So for a two-year school to be knocking off these big heavyweights like that had to be major news.
Yeah, so as good as that team was and as great as Jeff was, he went into nationals that year with there were a couple Africans from different South Plains and Blinn that were Olympians, and we knew that Jeff couldn't quite at that level, but he went out and he just didn't have a good day that day, and all of a sudden, he knew he wasn't going to finish in the top 3 or 4, and the majority of people in that situation would have thrown in the towel. They'd have lost their focus. They wouldn't have kept running as hard as they did. He never quit, and I've always said he ended up being, I think, our 3rd man that day.
Wow.
And but the thing that I use him as an example every year to every team I've had since, is that some days when you don't have a good day, you just got to make the best of the bad day that you got. And Jeff did that, and because he did, we won. That we were so good that year that we could take him not necessarily being our number 1 man. And even though he still made All-American, he still was one of the best runners in the country, but instead of being the number 1 and finishing 2nd or 3rd at the Nationals, he was farther back. But he never quit that entire day. And I think that shows a lot about the man's ability to focus, his confidence, his determination, that even on a bad day, rather than sulk and let things go, he dug in even harder and just made it the best bad day he could. And because of that, we won nationals that year.
Yeah, and certainly, and Coach, with your influence as well, molded a individual who's gone on to have a very successful career in the business world and in the running world, and also, competed in those marathons and half marathons internationally.
And once again, it comes back to his love of the sport and his competitiveness. I've always said the old farmer's tale, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. You can't make a thoroughbred out of a plow horse.
Sure.
And so we had good runners, and I've told every runner I've ever coached that if they run well, it's because they've done a great job. If they run bad, it's because I messed up and I didn't do my job. And I've been lucky enough to have a lot of people like Jeff. He's as good as anybody we've had. But we've had a lot of All-Americans in my time here at Brevard, and it was because we bring in good kids, and they do a great job. So everything Jeff has gotten, he's gotten because of his hard work. Hopefully I played a part in it occasionally, but it's all Jeff Campbell.
Well, appreciate those sentiments, Coach. Welcome back to Brevard College. I know you've got all sorts of friends that you're looking forward to catching up with. Enjoy the evening tonight, and thanks for joining the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was Coach David Rinker. Great to have him on the program. And we will continue on. We'll try to lasso up some more guests here on this special edition of Tornado Talk. And a big night where Coach Mike Jones and Jeff Campbell, who we heard from Jeff along with his former coach, David Rinker. By the way, Coach Rinker is now at James Madison University up in Virginia as their coach. So great to have Coach Rinker back on campus for this homecoming weekend. Stick with us. More guests coming up here on the special edition of Tornado Talk, live from the Porter Center.